Tubman escaped slavery in Maryland in 1849 and traveled north. She then helped hundreds of other slaves flee to the north to freedom via the Underground Railroad. Miss Tubman helped John Brown recruit soldiers for his raid on Harper's Ferry. She spied for the Union in South Carolina during the U.S. Civil War. After the war, she lived in Auburn, New York, and founded the Harriet Tubman Home for Aged Negroes. Miss Tubman devoted her life to fighting slavery and championing the rights of women.
Sarah E. Good was a businesswoman and inventor. Good invented the folding cabinet bed, a space saver that folded up against the wall into a cabinet. When folded up, it could be used as a desk, complete with compartments for stationery and writing supplies. Good owned a furniture store in Chicago, Illinois, and invented the bed for people living in small apartments. Good's patent was the first one obtained by an African American woman inventor and was approved in 1885.
Frederick Douglass was a former slave. Douglass became a leading figurehead in the anti-slavery movement, one of the most prominent African American leaders of the 19th century. The biography of his life as a slave and his speeches denouncing slavery were influential in changing public opinion.
Nelson Mandela spent most of his life campaigning for an end to apartheid in South Africa. After over 20 years in prison, he was released and was able to be the first elected president in post-apartheid South Africa. Also admired for his forgiveness and willingness to reach out to the white community in South Africa.
Rosa Parks was a pivotal figure in the fight for civil rights. On December 1st, 1955, a Montgomery, Alabama bus driver ordered Miss Parks to give up her seat to a white man. When she refused, she was fined and arrested. This incident prompted a citywide bus boycott, which eventually resulted in a Supreme Court ruling that segregation on city buses is unconstitutional.
Garrett Morgan was an African American inventor and a businessman. He was the first person to patent a traffic signal. He also developed the gas mask and many other inventions. Morgan used his gas mask to rescue miners who were trapped underground in a noxious mine. Soon after, Morgan was asked to produce gas masks for the U.S. Army.
Born on September 8, 1954 in Tylertown, Mississippi, Ruby Bridges was 6 when she became the first African American child to integrate a white Southern elementary school. She had to be escorted by her mother and U.S. Marshals due to violent mobs. Bridges bravely paved her way to continued civil rights actions, and she shared her story with future generations in educational forums. With only one teacher, Miss Henry, willing to teach a black student and with no peers, willing to learn along her side, Ruby Bridges found herself in a class of one. She was courageous beyond her years and never missed a day of school.
James Brown was an energetic, intense singer best known for his gospel-tinged rhythm and blues songs that influenced the direction of funk, soul, and disco. Nicknamed the Godfather of Soul, Brown toured relentlessly right up until his death. His recordings progressed from the early soul-stirring shout of "Please, Please, Please," 1956, to the proto-funk of "Papa's Got a Brand New Bag," 1965, to the Black Power anthem "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud," 1968.
Althea Gibson. Trailblazing Althea Gibson became the first great African-American player in women's tennis. Raised primarily in Harlem section of New York City, she won a string of American Tennis Association titles on the African American circuit. After being allowed entry to the major tournaments, she became the first black player to win Wimbledon and the French and U.S. Open titles. Gibson turned professional in 1959 and made more history by becoming the first great African American competitor in the Women's Pro Golf Tour in the 1960s. She was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in 1971 and later served as a commissioner of athletics for the state of New Jersey.
Martin Luther King was a pivotal figure in the nonviolent civil rights movement. During the 1950s and 1960s, he sought to improve race relations and overturn discrimination in American society. He is remembered for his powerful speeches which sought to bring about a united society where race did not act as a barrier.
Andrea Davis Pinckney. After noticing the lack of children's books featuring the black children, Andrea Davis Pinckney decided to do something about it. Writing for babies to school age children, Pinckney has published more than 20 books and been awarded as a Coretta Scott Book Award winner.
Dr. Charles Richard Drew was an American medical doctor and surgeon who started the idea of a blood bank and a system for the long-term preservation of plasma. He found that plasma kept longer than whole blood. His ideas revolutionized the medical profession and have saved many, many lives.
Jesse Owens was one of the world's greatest track and field athletes. At the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games, Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals in the 100-meter, 200-meter, 400-meter relay, and the long jump, set 2 Olympic records, and tied another. This humiliated Hitler and was an affront to his racial theories. Hitler assumed that the Aryans would easily win. A year earlier, as an Ohio State University student, Owens set new world records in the 220-yard dash, the 200-yard hurdles, and the long jump, and equaled the record in the 100-yard at the National Collegiate Track and Field meet on May 25, 1935.
Sojourner Truth was a prominent abolitionist and women's rights activist. Born a slave in New York State, she had at least 3 of her children sold away from her. After escaping slavery, Truth embraced evangelical religion and became involved in moral reform and abolitionist work. She collected supplies for black regiments during the Civil War and immersed herself in advocating for free people during the Reconstruction period. Truth was a powerful and impassioned speaker whose legacy of feminism and racial equality still resonates today. She is perhaps best known for her stern "Ain't I a Woman" speech delivered at a women's convention in Ohio in 1851.